Hello everyone and welcome to a really wild game from the 1990 Goldberg Memorial. It's a game from two international masters from Russia, Evgeniy Veniaminovich Kalegin and Sergey Yuferov, and it's really a game that belongs, well, nowhere else but in the Sorcery series. If you're new to the channel, you might not know what the Sorcery series is. It's a playlist I have on YouTube that has, I don't even know how many videos, I think 7, and they're like games that belong nowhere else. They're so crazy games that you just don't know if they're actually real or not. And this is one such game that was suggested to me by a subscriber, and I thought, yeah, we haven't done a Sorcery game for a while now, and this is just the candidate. So without further ado, let's check it out. Evgeniy opens with e4. We have c5, the Sicilian defense is on the board, sorry about that. And if you guys are interested in watching some other games from the Sorcery series, I will put a link in the description below with the Sorcery playlist. It's some 7 videos, so feel free to check it out. And if you're wondering where is all the hair, Yelena was kind enough to give me a haircut, so now I look like this. Hope you enjoy that as well. And knight to f3. So just nicely continuing to develop, we have d6 and bishop to b5 with check the canal attack, bishop to d7, and we have a captures. Captures, we have castles, this is all very standard stuff, knight to c6, c3, preparing to strike in the center with d4, but first black attacks the e4 pawn, knight f6. And now you could go for a timid move like rook to e1 or d3 to defend your e4 pawn. However, the favorite weapon for players with the white pieces is the Bronstein Gambit with the d4. You offer the e4 pawn. And what's the idea behind offering the pawn? Well, black always captures it. We have knight captures on e4, and now d5. You just grab more space in the center, and if black doesn't want to have his pawns doubled with captures and captures like this, he has to go back with the knight, which is what Yuferov goes for. We have knight to b8. And this game was played in 1990. I couldn't find photos of these two gentlemen from 1990, so I had to use modern photos of them, but you know, we use what we can. We have rook to e1, now attacking the knight here, and knight back to f6, followed by bishop to g5. And now black has to decide how to develop the knight here. And in modern chess, this position does arise, and knight to a6 is the move that you will play here, knight a6, then you can shift the knight over to c7. But in this game, queen to f5 was played, freeing up the d7 square for the knight this way. And also, it's a nice square for the queen. However, white replies with bishop captures on f6, making it a problem for black to recapture with the queen. If you capture with the queen, then queen b3 is a problem. The queen from f5 no longer has access to the c8 square. You have to play b6 to guard your pawn, and then it's queen b5 check. Knight d7, queen here, goes after the rook. Rook has to block. Somewhere rook b8 or d8, and then you go knight a3. You go after b5 to go for c7, but then a6, but again knight to c4 with the threat of knight captures here. All in all, black's position will just become terrible and well, very soon deteriorate. So after bishop captures, you cannot capture with the e-pawn since it's pinned by the rook on e1. So g captures on f6, and now you have to continue development with white. You already gave up some material, so how do you continue? With knight to a3 probably is best. Then you shift your knight over to c2, maybe to e3, and so on, as the queen needs to keep an eye on the d5 pawn. But if knight to a3 was played, chances are this game would never have made it into the Sorcery series. But in this game, knight b to d2 was played, going for a more rapid development, but also giving up the pawn here. So what's the idea behind this pawn sacrifice? Well, black captures it. Black is also very interested to figure out what the idea is. And now c4, just grabbing more space in the center. The queen is very happy to go back. We have queen back to c6, and now comes knight to e4. And already white has some very dangerous threats. For example, if you're not careful, let's say knight d7, already already you get knight captures on d6 check. If you capture, you just lose the queen, since the e-pawn is pinned, and if you go here, let's say captures, you lose the rook. So black has to be extremely careful. Black goes king to d8, which is in fact the strongest move by the engine, just unpinning. And now b4, white just continues to push forward. The threat is just captures, as now the d-pawn is also pinned by the queen. So c captures on b4, but now c5, white is just pushing forward. We have d5, of course, not allowing this push, and now knight to d4, kicking back the queen. We have queen to d7, and now, of course, you can imagine c6. White is just on a relentless attack here. You could capture with the knight, but black decides to capture with the b-pawn, so the center is immediately strengthened. But again, knight to c5 now. And those knights are one step closer to the black king by every move. We have queen back to e8, and now there is a problem for white here. If black is able to get e5, then black will most likely be okay. For example, if queen f3 and you allow e5, then this is a massive center. Sure, white is better, but if black is able to consolidate, let's say rook c1, you're going to go bishop to e7. Now even this is a threat. It's hard to say how white continues here. So white had a genius idea. Let's simply prevent black from playing e5 by playing rook to e6. And by playing rook to e6, we've prevented e5. And it's not easy for black to make a move here. Well, unless the obvious move, f captures on e6. But unless you don't want to capture, it's really not that easy not to capture the rook. For example, if you try to continue development, let's say bishop h6, then there's a double attack here. So now just knight captures on c6, knight captures, and queen captures on d5 with check. And now the game just falls apart for black. Knight a6 check, king goes to b6. You have to keep an eye on the knight here, and now just a4 with queen to b5 mate to follow. Or black will have to suffer severe material loss. So after rook to e6, Yuferov decided that there is no other move. Let's simply capture the rook. So f captures on e6, and now knight d captures on e6 with check, leaving the black king with only one square, which is king to c8. Which of course was played, king to c8, and now comes queen to g4, threatening all sorts of nasty discoveries, and now black finds the only good move for black, and that's why this game is so beautiful, because both white and black pretty much play the only moves that allow the game to be this great. A5, and what this does is it says you don't have any graded discoveries here. The problem is, for example, if you become greedy and go knight to g7 with check, hoping that you're going to pick up the queen, as the knight also guards the d7 square. Problem is black has f5, attacking your queen, and once you captured it, now comes e6, and now you can either trade queens, or you can move the queen and then just lose the knight on g7, and well, yeah, it was regarding how much material you've sacrificed, you do not want to trade queens, or give up more material for no reason. So instead, after a5, white played the absolute strongest. Knight captures on f8, delivers a check this way. We have f5, again, this is a must. Queen captures. We have e6 now, now forcing the white queen to move, or knight captures on e6. Again, threatening a lot of nasty discoveries, so black blocks it. Knight to d7. And here you have to continue the attack with white. How do you proceed? Well, rook a to c1, or just rook to c1, a silent but a deadly move, as it brings the rook into the game on the same file as the king. So here black catches a moment to take his breath. Maybe he can do something here. Best for black is probably something like queen to e7, which is hard to even consider in a moment like this, but let's say the normal knight captures on c5, instead of, let's say, rook captures, knight captures, you open up a discovery here, king to c7, and now queen to f4 check. King b6, you're gonna go queen to d4, and it's now a question whether black can survive this or not. With perfect play, probably yes. In practical game, most likely not. But it would be a decent try. However, in the game, rook to a7 was played, and now white finds another beautiful move. So even feel free to pause the video and try to find this. The only way to give white the advantage here in this game, while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting that it's time to give up even more material, and that is knight to e4. Now the threat is knight to d6 check, which will win black's queen as it comes with a fork, so you have to capture it. Not capturing is not an option, because if you try to move the king, let's say king b8, then it's queen f4 check, you're gonna get king to a8, and now knight to c7. Again, with a fork, you have to give up your rook, captures, and now, yes, you win the knight, and now you're up a piece, but rook captures on c6, and there is no defense against rook to a6. That's the problem. For example, if knight b8, then you just go queen captures on a5, king here, and now rook to c7 will be made. So after knight to e4, Yuferov really doesn't have much to choose on. He decides to capture the knight, but now it's a pretty similar tactic. Rook captures on c6 with check, and now king to b8. If king to b7, then you're inviting queen to b5 check, king a8, and again we go into the same line. Knight c7 check, captures, and you are again getting mated. Nothing for you to do here. So king to b8 instead of king to b7, but now it's queen to f4 check, and we again enter that same line. So king to b7 is a possibility again. Then you run into rook to c7, but it would perhaps give black a bit more breathing room. However, black went to a8, and here we have knight c7 check, rook captures, we have queen captures on c7, now with the threat of rook to a6 checkmate. Knight to b8 preventing that, but now white just went in for the kill. Queen captures on a5, king to b7, and now rook to c7 with checkmate. So really a wild game. I do hope you consider it fit for the Sorcery series. I really do, as it's just been after that Bronstein Gambit d4. It's just you know, a bolt from the clear with every move, and it was just very enjoyable to watch. So I really enjoyed it myself. I do hope you enjoyed it as well. I would like to thank Philip Pehar, Dimitri Offengenden, William Avery, James Corcutt, and Nicholas Peltier for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Morphy saga, checking up on Lila, Chess Zero, and Stockfish, checking up on your wonderful suggestions such as this game here, and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day, and do check out the other games from the Sorcery series. The first link in the description below. See you soon.